What's going on, YouTube world? It's Jay Coffee on the vid. Back at it, and check it out. I've been a pro wrestling fan all my life, and I just found out something that I can't believe I've never heard of. I guess kind of like a dirty secret that's been kept in the low and the cut all these years. Pro wrestling fans out there, have you ever heard of this? Like, I am just befuddled that I never have. As we're speaking about a pretty well-known individual out of the world of pro wrestling, we're talking about Jerry the King Lawler. I mean, this dude was big where he crossed over outside of pro wrestling. I'm sure everyone remembers way back the angle that they did with Andy Kaufman, who was a huge comedian. It was depicted in the Man on the Moon movie where Jim Carrey played him. The King was a big deal, a celebrity, and for those that used to tune into Monday Night Raw, even outside of just pro wrestling fans during the big wrestling boom when the Monday Night Wars were going on, the King was, in a sense, one of the faces of the company, as he was a commentator on Monday Night Raw. Like, people know who the King is, and news just broke out that he had another stroke recently. A couple of years ago, he had a stroke or a heart attack, something like that, and it wasn't looking good for him, but he's managed to push on and maintain until this recent report of another stroke, which they're saying he's on the road to recovery once again. But with the news of this breaking, a pro wrestling fan shared this old report that had me flucked up. Like, is this fake? Is this cap? Where did this come from? Did someone edit this thing together, as with all the deep fakes and AI bullish going on? It's like you got a second and third guess everything nowadays. But this is legit. The King was indicted, not just charged, indicted with violating 13-year-old girl way back in the day. Back in 1993. And apparently this even caused him to be ousted from WWE for about a year. And they were even in the middle of a big angle between him and Bret the Hitman Hart. For pro wrestling fans, you might remember the King of the Ring, I believe it was back then. Or maybe Survivor Series, one of those big pay-per-view events where Bret Hart and the King had a program where they were working, and it was some serious heat going on. King was getting on the mic, as he does, talking his shit, dissing Bret's legendary pro wrestling family, Stu, shitting on the Dungeon, just doing what he does as a good heel. But because of this arrest and indictment, they just removed him from TV out of nowhere, didn't give any explanation to the fans or anything, and Shawn Michaels filled in. Like, do you guys remember that? But as this report reads from back then, it says pro wrestler Jerry Lawler charged with grape sodomy of a 13-year-old girl. It says Jerry Lawler, a well-known professional wrestler who frequently applies his trade at Louisville Gardens, was charged yesterday with rape and sodomy for allegedly having sex with a 13-year-old Louisville girl. Lawler, who is known by the moniker The King, was indicted by a Jefferson County grand jury on 1 count of second-degree rape, 3 counts of second-degree sodomy, and 1 count of harassing a witness. The rape and sodomy counts are felonies carrying possible prison sentences of 5 to 10 years each. The harassment charge is a misdemeanor with a maximum of 12 months in jail and a $300 fine, I believe. Lawler, 43, of Memphis, Tennessee, also is being investigated on criminal allegations in southern Indiana. He is accused of having sex with the Louisville girl June 6 and July, according to the indictment. Police and prosecutors would not go into much detail about the case. However, Detective Mike Redmond of the Something County Crimes Against Children Unit and the girl, said the girl was a fan of wrestling matches at Louisville Gardens. He said no force was used, but the charges were brought because of the girl's age. Obviously, that's some sick, twisted-ish, straight chomo allegations. The harassment charge alleges that on October 4th, Lawler engaged in a misleading or unlawful conduct intended to dissuade a person who he believes may be called as a witness from causing a criminal prosecution to be sought or instituted. Commonwealth's attorney Nick King said that the person is not the alleged victim of the X crimes, but he would not elaborate. Detective Dan Crump of the Clark County, Indiana Sheriff's Department said his office is investigating allegations against Lawler and another professional wrestler. Crump would not say what charges were being considered. Lawler could not be reached for comment, so it just goes on to speak about that they couldn't reach him for comment and give a little background on him. And I'm not sure what the Indiana investigation was or if charges were ever brought, but back to this sick, twisted allegation and the fact that I had never heard of it. In the end, I mean, obviously, had he been convicted and went to prison, everyone I'm sure would know this, and King wouldn't be in the history books the way he is and wouldn't have been there during the big old wrestling boom of the 90s during the Monday Night Wars. But he didn't flat out beat the case. He ended up just pleading out to the harassment of a witness. No jail time, just paid a fine, and that was it. And then he resumed his role within WWE in 1994. And it's kind of wild, right? Like, what do you guys think about this? Again, had you heard of this, you know, on this channel, man, we don't fuck around when it comes to the wicked demon chomos and such as like the, you know, Jeffrey Maustein. That's a big thing on this channel at one point in time that we were reporting on. No respect for those sick creeps, but the King pled out, but only to the harassment of the witness, as I stated. The other actual stuff was thrown out, and there's really not much more info out there about all this. His son, who is deceased, Brian Lawler, Grandmaster XE, Pause, whatever you want to call him. I know a lot of people probably remember him from the Too Much tag team with Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty. He said in an interview or in a book or something like that before that the girl was just a fan and she wanted to make her boyfriend jealous and made up the story. But it's real weird to me, and I'm looking at the King like he's a cold weirdo when it's documented within the investigation that he gave conflicting statements, you know, first saying that the girl wasn't in his hotel room, then that she was, but it was only to use the phone, and the fact that he contradicts himself but then admits it and then tries to come up with this, oh, she wanted to use the phone thing. What would a grown man in his 40s have this 13-year-old girl in his room for? It just makes no sense and it's totally inappropriate. But this all got swept under the rug for the most part. You know what I mean? Like, again, I've been a pro wrestling fan and all my life I always watched Raw back in the day, and you know, there was never any kind of ish out there about the King like this. I guess when he took that plea deal and his role within WWE resumed, that was just it. And they never spoke of it to my knowledge. But it's got me all the way fucked up right now, as I was a fan of the King and enjoyed his commentary work, you know, but now hearing this chomo type stuff, like, I get the case was thrown out, but he did plead out to something. And in the reports, they're talking about how, oh, you know, he pled to a lesser charge. Yes. But it's just like very odd that he was harassing a witness, trying to get someone else not to go to court. And it's like, if nothing happened, what are you harassing them over? Why in the world would you have a 13-year-old in your room? There's just no excuse for that. And From what the reports indicate, the only reason that he got that sweet plea deal was because the girl was reluctant to testify. And then you hear of him witness tampering or harassing a witness. You know what I'm saying? Who knows if he paid this other girl off or put the pressure on her in some way. I don't know. I just don't like this at all. Again, I'm shocked. I never heard of this. But again, it goes down in the books that he didn't, do this, that he wasn't convicted. He's not an ex-offender or anything like that. But I don't know. I'm looking at the King totally different and definitely lost respect for him. You know what I'm saying? Comment and let me know how you feel about it. If you're feeling me like, yeah, Coffee, that's not right, man. What the fuck was wrong with this guy having a little girl in his room like that? And let me know if you had heard of this story as well, or you're just like me where you're shocked that this is like kind of kept in the dark. And it's wild right now, the allegations against Vince McMahon, who, isn't involved with WWE anymore. Obviously, the company's been sold, and a lot of people are thinking at some point in time, the Saudis are going to end up buying it, as there at one point in time was talks of them buying the company, but it didn't go down like that. The TKO merger went down, but there's more and more business jumping off with the Saudis. So who knows? It definitely seems like that could be a possibility in the future. But back to Vinnie Mac, obviously he has some twisted allegations against him. And, the feds raided them once again. And, Vinnie Mac went toe-to-toe with the feds and won. But this time around, way back, during the steroid trials and all that. But this time around, no criminal charges were filed after the feds raided and investigated, but the lawsuit is still ongoing with the trafficking allegations, but it's not getting much news coverage as Vinnie Mac's, doing his stall game, a legal tactic many individuals do. But it seems back then in 93, 94, Vinnie Mac felt comfortable bringing the King back around, and I don't know. It's just blowing my mind in a fucked up way now. I don't know what to think. So let me know once again what y'all think. And subscribe to the channel if you're new. It's J Coffee, talking music, news, sports, and more. I'll get with y'all on the next video. Peace.